One, two, three. Good evening, AY. Welcome to our AY program. It is such a pleasure to be here this Sabbath afternoon. We have a lot in store for you, and we ask that you will listen attentively. Let us begin with prayer. Let us stand, please. Heavenly Father, we thank you for this wonderful opportunity that we, our children, can gather again in your presence. Father, we ask for the infilling of your Holy Spirit so that whatever we do this afternoon will be done to your honor and to your glory. Father, the presenters will be speaking as to investing in the legacy of our church. We ask, Father, that the congregation will be attentive and that they will be receptive and that they will yearn to learn more about you and your church. We ask all of these mercies in your Son's precious name. Amen.
Thank you, Sister Melrose. Good evening, AY. We will continue with the ideals. Okay, so let's stand for the ideals. Start with the aim.
The Advent
Message to all the world in my generation. The motto,
the love of Christ compels me.
Pledge.
Loving the Lord Jesus, I promise to take an active part in the work of the Adventist Youth Society, doing what I can to help others and to finish the work of the gospel
in all the world. And the song.
Adventist youths are we, from every land and sea. Together we play and work and play in happy harmony. We have a faith to share with others everywhere. A message of love from God above to show the world we care. Adventist youths, Adventist youth, Adventist youth. Thank you.
Thank you. Please sit. Okay, so this evening's AY is being hosted by the Planned Giving and Trust Ministries of our church. And we are looking at investing in the legacy of our church. And you say, what is planned giving? And that's mostly for our online audience who may not know. And the Planned Giving and Trust Ministries is a unit of the stewardship department of our church. And this unit assists our members with ideas and guidance on how to achieve their financial goals, right? We are reminded that God owns everything and that we are the stewards of his assets. As such, we are to make provisions for our personal and family needs, but we are also to remember that we are responsible to God for what we use during our lifetime and any residual which remains. We are taught by God through his actions and his words. The example of God is that of planning and order. The plans of creation and redemption exemplifies this. Prior to creation, the earth was dark, it was desolate, it was empty. And so God created light, gave different levels of light, night, day, sun, the moon, stars. He divided the waters and created the heaven and the earth. He created grass and herbs and trees and fruit, birds and animals. And then he created human beings. He gave us responsibility and taught us how to rest, rejuvenate, and worship. Very orderly, right? And God did all of this knowing that man would disobey and that disobedience would cause mayhem and chaos and destruction. What a good God. And so, even before creation, the plan of redemption was crafted. And this involved Jesus coming to live on earth to show us that, yes, it can be done and how it should be done. And he's dying so that we can be redeemed. We have the opportunity of being redeemed back to the image of what God originally intended for the highest order of his earthly creation. And so, in looking at our legacy as a church, we look at how we orchestrate according to God's plans. We will look at, our pioneers, and I'll just name just two. John and Andrews, for whom this church and the hospital is named. He followed, the blueprint that God gave. He gave of his time, his intellect. He was very instrumental in church administration, as well as he's credited with being the first overseas missionary for the Adventist Church. Ellen G. White, our prophetess, she shared our inspirations with the world through her writings, as well as her involvement in building the Adventist denomination. In her last will and testament, she made provisions for the continued sharing of these visions and the counsels that she received from God. And projected on the screen is section 5, subsection B2, which states, if the entire remainder of the said net proceeds from my said properties is more than sufficient to pay my said debts with interest, in the manner in which my creditors shall agree to receive payment of their respective claims, then my said trustees shall use the overplus for the improved manuscripts held in trust by them, and herein provided, for the securing and printing of new translations thereof, for the printing of compilations from my manuscript, for general missionary work of the Seventh-day Adventist denomination, for the support of mission schools under the Negro Department of the Seventh-day Adventist General Conference, for the support of mission schools for the illiterate whites in the southern United States. And so we have as our example God, firstly, and then our pioneers and founders who showed through following the example of God that we ought to invest in building the legacy we have. And so today's program, we look at our church and the institutions that support it in ministry. We look at Christian education, which seeks to build character. And we listened to Minister Favor Williams this morning when she implored us to positively influence the young people in our country, and I was asking us as a church to get involved. We look at the health message and the institutions that have been founded in support, particularly the Andrews Memorial Hospital. We look at our missionary outreach through the Good Samaritan Inn and the Good Samaritan Inn Foundation. And we look at how the church itself, Andrews Memorial Seventh-day Adventist Church, as it nurtures us as members, embraces the community, and carry on the mission that God gave us when he was leaving in Matthew 28 and verses 19 and 20. And we look at it in light of how Sister White posited that message as to how the Savior did share the gospel. And from Ministry of Healing, she says, the Savior mingled with people as one who desired their good. He showed them sympathy, ministered to their needs, and won their confidence. Then he invited them, follow me. And so what today's program hopes to do is to inspire in us that zeal to help to build and to secure that legacy for, we have benefited, and so we secure it for our coming generations. And that can include many ways, and these will be brought out in the presentations. And so we will start with a presentation from the Andrews Memorial Hospital, and Brother Bruce Jones will make that presentation.
Thank you, Sister Rose. Good evening, everyone. No, sir. Good evening, everyone. Good evening to you. Welcome back to AY. Are you happy to be here? Happy to see you. Well, presentation that Sister Rose has so ably introduced. In fact, the person who best is able to make this presentation is unavoidably absent. That's our CEO, Dr. Patrick Rutherford. And he has asked our Vice President, VP of Finance, to do the presentation. However, he also has other duties. And so, you know, it has been devolved to me. Anyhow, I just want to take us through a short history of the Andrews Memorial Hospital in light of the legacy of our church and its institution. And you can see on screen there a picture of how the hospital looked back in the days. Now, how did we get started? In 1943, the General Conference of Seventh-day Adventists and the Inter-American Division recognized that it was time to have some sort of a medical facility in this region. And so they contacted one Clifford Russell, Anderson's wife, and they were physicians, and they were in charge of carrying out the work of establishing that request. Now, they actually started at North Street in Kingston. And shortly thereafter, there was a contribution from Loma Linda College in California. Actually, they gave us about $12,000, which was used as proceeds to purchase this plot of land that we now occupy. The facility was named after John Andrews, one of our first missionaries, as Sister Rose pointed out. And then on December 1st, 1946, we had a large gathering of some special guests, people like who we saw this morning from government. The then Governor General, Sir John Huggins, and his wife, they laid cornerstones and gave the main remarks at that presentation in 1946. Also involved in that ceremony, we had also the West Indian Military Band in their distinguished attire, adding to the celebration setting. Now, when the hospital opened doors, it was said to be the most modern hospital on the island. Some major milestones and achievements. Now, our growth over the years has been highlighted by significant accomplishments, including the following. In 1963, Andrews Memorial Auxiliary was established for the main purpose of assisting the hospital with acquiring well-needed equipment and supplies to enhance its effectiveness in the community. In 1966, the first AMH chapel was dedicated. However, due to the demand for a place of worship, it was subsequently converted to the Andrews Memorial Seventh-day Adventist Church. So you're not just getting a history of the hospital, but you're also getting a history of the church, because this was the chapel for the hospital that was converted to the church. And that took place in 1966. In 1970, there was an expansion of the maternity and pediatric wards in response to the growing need for maternity facilities. In 1971, groundbreaking for the student nurses dormitory, which is just around here, was initiated to accommodate trainee nurses from West Indies College, now Northern Caribbean University. In 1990, ground was broke again for the construction of an outpatient and emergency department. And in 1995, the revitalization program started in collaboration with the Florida Hospital, now Advent Health. Now, this has provided significant support in human resources development, equipment upgrades, and so on. And that is contribution from Advent Health in Florida. They have contributed significantly in terms of machinery, inventory items, so on and so forth. And that relationship exists even to today. 2004 to 2016, the wing that you're looking at over here, named after the Thai family, the Thai wing, was completed from significant donations received from the hospital's administration, from Mr. and Mrs. Aston Thai, philanthropists, and friends of the hospital. Other major significant contributors to the building of that wing included Dr. Patrick Rutherford, who volunteered as a contractor, as well as Earl Reed, Mr. Earl Reed, very significant in the bat wing. We also had contributions from Nova Scotia and National Commercial Bank to complete the Thai wing. In 2018, the Catherine Jameson Chapel was dedicated and commissioned into use. Now, that is a brief rundown of where we're coming from 1943 to 2018, where we gave you that story of the different constructions and buildings that took place, how the hospital's physical structure was built. Now, there are a few little challenges here and there. While we acknowledge and celebrate our achievements, we were not without a few little challenges. A review of our history reveals that Andrews Memorial Hospital has faced many challenges, such as some migration of nurses, so on and so forth, medical professionals, so on and so forth. In spite of our challenges, though, we continue to look to the one who inspired the birth of this noble institution and has been our source of strength and direction over 75 years of existence. Now, I want to just tie this presentation up with a little video presentation that will sort of augment all of what I'm saying. And that will now be displayed on screen.
The Andrews Memorial Hospital was founded in 1944 by the Seventh-day Adventist Church as a non-profit institution dedicated to providing the highest level of care for the sick and the injured. It had the distinction of being the first medical institution to be operated by the Seventh-day Adventist Church within the Caribbean and the Inter-American Basin.
Verily I say unto you, inasmuch as ye have done it unto one of the least of these my brethren, ye have done it unto me. The words of Jesus Christ, words the Andrews Memorial Hospital Outreach Ministry firmly embraces as they seek to extend Christ's healing ministry in the mission field.
A team comprised of workers from every department of the hospital, including doctors, nurses, counselors, pharmacists, laboratory staff, and porters, went to Thornton, a deep rural community in the parish of St. Elizabeth. It was the staging of their grand community health clinic. Now, with the help of several organizations such as SSOCA, S.D.A, NHF, NCDA, Jamaica AIDS Support for Life, and the Cancer Society, the clinic provided over 200 persons within the community access to care and counseling.
And that's really the mission of the Andrews Memorial Outreach Ministry, being the hands and feet of Jesus, touching mind, body, and spirit, pointing others to the greatest healer the world has ever known.
I'm blessed and humbled to be in this institution in the beautiful country of Jamaica. We have a very unique approach to medical care here. We approach each patient from the mental, physical, and spiritual aspect of healing. So as each individual comes into this hospital, our mission statement is that we are extending the healing ministry of Christ.
As chaplains, we are involved in what is known as clinical ministry. So we provide spiritual guidance and support to patients, primarily, patient family, and staff here in the hospital.
The Andrews Memorial Hospital, in pursuit of its vision to provide excellence in its delivery of healthcare in Jamaica and the region, has embarked on an ambitious drive to expand its services to its customers by introducing some of the most technologically advanced diagnostic and surgical procedures to Jamaica and the region. In late 2016, the hospital began its upgrading of its surgical lighting system that had outlived its useful years. A new surgical lighting system was installed and brought into full operation in March of this year. This has had significant benefit to our surgical team and the hospital overall service delivery. In December of 2016, the Andrews Memorial Hospital acquired and introduced radical laparoscopic prostatectomy procedure to extend the range of surgical procedures now being offered. Our hospital laboratory has recently acquired and soon to commission during the month of June a Cobas 4800 DNA molecular machine to analyze samples. This will boost the capacity of our laboratory and enable the Andrews Memorial Hospital to provide many different DNA analyses. In March of this year, the Andrews Memorial Hospital acquired a lithotripsy machine, one of two such equipment in our island. The procedure involves applying shock waves to break up kidney stones and allow them to pass naturally from the body without the need for invasive surgery. The installation of the lithotripsy machine is at an advanced stage and should be in full operation within the month of June. A cardio-catheterization laboratory is also now being constructed and will be launched as another unique addition to our medical services in Jamaica. This advanced, non-invasive medical procedure is generally inaccessible here to patients who suffer from cardiac blockages. Andrews Hospital is pleased to be able to bring this service to the island by the end of June.
Right, so I hope you enjoyed that presentation. Now, just to highlight some of our services, as you would have seen in that video. Our extensive services include radiology. We do x-rays, CT scans, ultrasound. We have a cath lab, the laboratory that does all the testing, cardiology, echocardiogram, electrocardiogram, ECG, cardiac stress testing, physiotherapy. We have a pharmacy. There's dentistry. There's breast oncology. And we do have on-site specialist service. Now, I just want to jump a little into our outreach activities. Now, I should tell you that prior to COVID-19, the Andrews Memorial Hospital would have quarterly health fairs. And so you would find members of the medical team would pool together and they would go to various places across the island. They would do free checks for blood pressure, hypertension, and also dental care. Also, in terms of its members, the church, the hospital provides pro bono services to a lot of its members. And I can just remember just last year, a case in point, we did a neurosurgery for one member, which would have cost in excess of $5 million if that person would have to take up that cost, and that surgery was done for free. There are members who are given discount. I know there are times when people may say, you know, the cost factor can be a little deterrent, but management, the administration of the hospital do take into consideration requests from its members, and from time to time, significant discounts are given to its members for medical care. So I just want to finish this presentation by looking at the final video, which will show from our current CEO our projections for the future. So enjoy this next video.
As we face the future, it looks bright. It's bright because God is in it. And He's already started to do some things for us and let us know that things are going to be much, much better in the years to come. One of them is a relationship we have with HI International, Advent Health International, or Melinda. And they have partnered with us to help us develop our lab, and they've already raised over $100,000 to help our lab succeed and become one of the best in the Caribbean. The other thing that's happening is, as mentioned before, the upgrade of our service to having cath lab. And that service we anticipate will be in full force in the coming year, and things will even get better in the years to come. We're also thankful to God that we have, in just past few days, signed another yearly contract for the U.S. Medical Program out of U.S. Embassy that allows us to provide physicals on people coming from the President of the United States. We are the sole provider for the service in Jamaica and the Cayman Islands. That is a tremendous blessing. We are also grateful to God for the opportunity we have to have our services for surgery increased to the point where we are about to build ourselves a 5th operating room. Downstairs of that, we will expand our cafeteria into that space, and that will enhance our commitment to healthy living. Thank you so much for all the support and the prayers that you have sent up for us and will continue to send up for us as we move forward in extending the healing ministry of Christ. The future truly is bright.
And so you have had a little information about the history of the Andrews Memorial Hospital. You have had a little history on the projections the way forward. Those videos and those presentations were presented in the context of planned giving. Someone before you and I had a vision. I listened keenly. A vision 1943 that there should be a health outreach facility in Jamaica. Today, looking back many years, 70 odd years, we can see Andrews Memorial Hospital. I take your mind now to a few years beyond that. And I take your mind to December 23, 2007, a mere approximately 15 years ago. But it's not the hospital, but it's a facility known as the Good Samaritan Inn. We have a video to share with you as well, but there are some challenges. So we are gonna, I think it might be coming up. So at this point in time, I invite you to sit back and listen, watch what God has done.
The Good Samaritan Inn is a place of refuge for many homeless persons. Since its establishment on December 23, 2007, thousands of persons have benefited from warm meals, items of clothing, care packages, free medical checks, back-to-school health fairs, and Christmas trees, all at the expense of volunteer donors. Their countless sacrificial efforts have had a significant impact on thousands.
On the operation that takes place here has helped me to be humble, more humble, and to see beyond just your personal need. I have grown a lot since being here and seeing the operation, and notice that it has impacted other individuals. I have benefited from being here in many ways, socially, physically, and spiritually.
My name is Vermont Murray, the project manager for the Good Samaritan Inn. It has been a joyous experience ministering to the needy, the homeless, the less fortunate, and those individuals who sometimes are forgotten by the society. We are strategically located in the heart of Kingston, Jamaica. And since our inception in December
2007, we have ministered to many, many individuals. We provide meals, which is still our flagship program. In addition, the Good Samaritan Inn, we provide bath facilities, laundry facilities. Individuals can walk off the street and use our bathrooms. Many of these individuals do not even have a toilet at home. The Good Samaritan Inn, we provide this for them.
Well, Good Samaritan Inn has been where my church has started. From Metro 14, MM14 Crusade. We came here about 6 months after we were trying to find a location. And during that time period, because of my decision of choosing Christ, I had to leave my house. I had to leave where I grew up. And Good Samaritan Inn was one of the places I had to come with my children. So that is how Good Samaritan Inn has helped me. They were one who, before the medical section came in, the doctor's section, they had room and boarding, and they took care of me. I didn't have any furniture, I didn't have anything, no pots, no nothing. Just basically left with my clothes and my children's clothes. So I spoke to them and let them know my situation, and the church, they said that they will be able to accommodate me. They feed people here. They take care of homeless people. They give them clothes. Persons come and donate. So that had helped me too, because coming into the church for the first time, I didn't have church clothes. So it helped me in that aspect. I didn't have shoes. They helped me in that aspect. So I would encourage persons to come if they need help. The inn is here. And I encourage them to come despite their challenges.
In addition to meeting human needs in a personal way, the inn has been making a public contribution by retrofitting its space to be used as a national vaccination site, a decision that many persons from the community are grateful for.
On March 10, 2021, when the government rolled out its vaccination program, the Good Samaritan Inn has been at the forefront, partnering with the government, Ministry of Health, to ensure that the health of our people are taken care of.
You know, actually, it's the first, when I came here, I didn't know, it was a surprise to me to know that there's somewhere actually in Jamaica that feeds people, provide clothes and all that for them. So I focus a lot on that, trying to help others a lot. For instance, last Sunday, I was at the Sunday before, no one turned out to get the meats prepared for the street people. I'm like, I call on Memorial, we make arrangements. We only got it, there's some like bull beef and white rice, and I eventually cooked rice and peas and vegetable with the bull beef and stuff. I love to do that. It's a pleasure for me to feed someone.
The Good Samaritan Inn would not be where it's at now without partners. In fact, Good Samaritan Inn started as a partnership of the S.D.A East Chapter and the East Jamaica Conference.
On a Sunday, we are sponsored by the East Jamaica Conference of Seventh-day Adventists through its Community Services Federation. On a Tuesday, we are sponsored by the University of the College of the Commonwealth Caribbean, and this partnership has been going back to 2008. On a Wednesday, we are sponsored by the Fosterage Group of Companies, a relationship that goes back to February 2008. And other groups have come in from time to time, and they have provided gifts, they have provided meals, they have provided care packages.
The health center that we are in now, where we are filming from, our health center, this was constructed from funds received from the Global Mission Offering, that's the Adventist Global Mission Offering, with assistance by Fosterage Company Limited, that were able to construct this health clinic, which has 3 medical treatment rooms and 4 dental rooms. The health clinic, now, it was constructed as a public-private partnership with the government of Jamaica. So
The health clinic at this time is being operated by the Kingston and St. Andrew Health Department as one of the national vaccination sites. When we made the bid to put in the health center, a need came up and which we would love to respond to. That is the need for a child guidance and an adolescent's mental health clinic. The Ministry of Health has reached out to us. They have asked if we can host it. So space we have next door to the clinic has been reserved for that purpose. We are looking for partners to help us to finance the construction of it, because the place, it was a warehouse before. What you're seeing is a completed thing, so it's going to take funds in order to do it. So if you're in the construction industry and you can volunteer materials and so, that would be good. But the main thing for us, because we want to keep everything uniform, is the funding in order to complete the clinic.
If you would like to become a volunteer donor, we invite you to email us at info@gsijamaica.org or call 876-507-6123.
How can you help? We are asking you, please, to contribute to the ministry of the Good Samaritan Inn. Our JMMB account will be displayed, whether you're giving Jamaican dollar or US dollars. Take time out to come and remember these individuals. They are in need. And as Jesus says, inasmuch as you have done it unto the least of these my brethren, you have done it unto me.
The Good Samaritan Inn is here to serve everyone that is in need, irrespective of religious or political affiliation. Once the need is there, we're here to serve.
Maybe you would like to render your financial assistance to persons in need. We welcome your partnership. To make your contribution, please complete the following steps on your screen. You may transfer to any of the following JMMB bank accounts. Jamaican account 006-400-176-153, or US account 006-000-176-679.
Help us to live a better life.
God bless you as you continue to give and as you share the good news of a Good Samaritan Inn, and you're partnering with us to do a great work to uplift humanity.
Thank you, team. Really appreciate you overcoming the hurdles to present that. That video, the second time that video is being aired, and I tell you a little story. It was aired on another platform. Someone in Central Florida saw it and was so impressed. She came to Jamaica, she brought lots of gifts, and she brought money for the Good Samaritan Inn. I will defer now to Elder Gavin Lowe, Director of the Good Samaritan Inn and the GSI Foundation, and he will tell you more about planned giving and when you give, what it does and how far it goes. Elder Lowe, welcome.
Thank you, Elder Murray. I am a director too of the GSI Foundation. The GSI Foundation is a vehicle that is used by the Seventh-day Adventist Church in Jamaica and its institutions, and it is used to help with our community outreach work. It's used to help with our education outreach and our health outreach. So one of the main institutions that we assist is the Good Samaritan Inn. We also assist the Andrews Memorial Hospital. Just to give you an idea of what things have been like, during 2020, in the height of the COVID, we got from overseas donations in kind of 30 million. Last year, 2021, that amount increased to 50 million. And part of it is Florida Hospital, now Advent Health, sending 3 40-foot containers of medical equipment to assist. And that help has continued even this year, because this year in March, we got a 40-foot container of N95 masks. And that was not for Andrews Hospital. Andrews Hospital procured the donation. It was given to the Ministry of Health. So that was given to the government of Jamaica to help with our response to COVID-19. So we are quite active out there in our work in assisting. So I just want to encourage everybody, that as we think about mission and we think about ministry, we should see in what ways I can leave a legacy for my children. And this is why I just wanted to segue by just even mentioning something about plan, giving, and trust. Because we all know the ravages of COVID-19. And the problem, it has been made even more secure with our failure in making provisions for those that are often left behind, and with little or no financial security to pick up the pieces. God has made us stewards of his resources, and he has entrusted these resources to us. So therefore, we are expected to practice proper financial management. And this should include estate planning, which would make provision for the family should something happen that makes us incapacitated, and in order for us to continue our role in God's work. Sometimes some people foolishly believe that if I make a will, that this is the end of me. But I have news for you. Whether you make a will or not, you are going to die. So it is better that your will be known than leave the government to distribute your assets and for family members to fight over it. And I'm going to encourage you, if you don't have a will, and I'm also encouraging, since I see the stewardship director, that the church's wills and trust services needs to probably spend more time in our local churches in encouraging our members to make a will, but also to support God's work. And this can be done through writing our will, establishing a trust, setting up an annuity, and making special donations. So, persons complain that perhaps the conferences act more in an advisory role. But I'm happy to say that the Jamaica Union is looking at establishing a plan giving and trust services department. And this is one where they'll probably help through all our conferences. It will help, similar to what happened at the conferences, the preparation of wills. It will help with power of attorney and living wills. Because if anything COVID has proven to us, do we know what our family member needs? Do we know what a husband needs, wife, or children, should they be incapacitated, being on life support and unable? Is it to be kept alive on a machine, or is it that they would wish to go peacefully? This is why when we do a will, and even indicate by a trust document, it indicates what our wishes are, and it will prevent division within families. So a living trust is something that can be established if you are unable to assist yourself and you need someone to help with paying your bills. A living trust. We can also set up charitable trusts to say, I want to leave from my estate this for the church, because we are required to look after our family. And I'm hoping that many of us will see the church as family and will want to not only make provision for our siblings and loved ones, but make provision for the church. And we can also set up gift annuities. So these are some of the things that will be established as soon as we have gone through the rigors of setting up a formal plan giving and trust services. So I am hoping that as many of us, as we make our wills, please remember the church. Remember, if you want to be more specific, Elder Murray and the Good Samaritan Inn, because they are doing a tremendous work. And I'm hoping that we will leave a legacy by putting aside something for those who will come behind us. Thank you.
Just a correction there. Do not leave it for Elder Murray and the Good Samaritan Inn. Leave it for the Good Samaritan Inn. I'd just like to thank you, Gavin. There are a few pictures, just quickly come up on screen. We made mention of the fact that the Good Samaritan Inn, because of your contribution and your good wishes, we partnered with the government for the COVID response. And as recently as Tuesday night last, Elder Lowe and myself were invited to a public award ceremony, recognition ceremony by the Southeast Regional Health Authority. And the Good Samaritan Inn was one of those institutions that was recognized as contribution to the government of Jamaica. I hope that that picture will come up soon. So Elder Lowe, he went and he accepted the award on behalf of the Good Samaritan Inn. And also, talking about legacy, if you go there at Jeffrod Place, you will see the sign there, the facility being, you should be, well, yeah, it's on screen, sorry. We're not seeing it inside the sanctuary, but it's on YouTube. Oh, it's there, great, good. Yeah, so that was part of the award ceremony. And right, this one, we talk about the Adventist Global Mission Offering. So if you go by Jeffrod Place anytime, you'll see being proudly presented there that we are beneficiaries of the contribution of the World Church. I believe with all my heart that inasmuch as you have done it unto the least of these my brethren, you have done it unto me. And I take the motto, I take the words of Jesus as penned by the servant of the Lord, when she says, the servant of the Lord mingled with men. He met their needs. Paraphrasing, he fellowshiped. He gave them clothing, Pastor. He gave them food. And having done all, he says, come, follow me. I'm saying, give in your planning. On the title envelope, there's a section which marks Good Samaritan Inn. Now you know. Fill out that line, and your funds going to good use. Parting word, Elder Lowe.
Well, I just want to endorse what Elder Murray has said, that as we complete our title envelope, let us remember the Good Samaritan Inn and the work that it is doing. So please remember those that are in need, and we can do that through the Good Samaritan Inn. And if you know someone that wants to make a donation to the church, they can do it through the GSI Foundation and get a tax-exempt donation receipt. So corporate donors can be encouraged to make gifts, probably large gifts, to our different entities, and that will assist the work that we are doing in Jamaica. Thank you.
Good afternoon to everybody who is in the sanctuary and all those who have joined us online. I'm going to continue the conversation about investing in the legacy of the church, but with a special emphasis on educational institutions. What I'm going to do this afternoon is to make the case and to encourage us to engage in planned giving in as far as our educational institutions are concerned. I'm going to frame the conversation by sharing 3 quotations from the Spirit of Prophecy, the pen of inspiration. The first one says, in the highest sense, the work of education and the work of redemption are one. For in education, as in redemption, other foundations can no man lay than that is laid, which is Jesus Christ. It was the good pleasure of the Father that in him should all the fullness dwell. And the second quotation, again from E.G. White, this one taken from Education. He says that our ideas of education take too narrow and too low a rein. There is need for a broader scope, a higher aim. True education means more than the pursuit of certain course of study. It means more than a preparation for the life that now is. It has to do with the whole being and with the whole period of existence possible to man. It is the harmonious development of the mental, the physical, and the spiritual powers. It prepares the student for the joy of service in this world and for the higher joy of wider service in the world to come. And the third quotation, coming from the same author, she writes, the Church of Christ, enfeebled and defective as it may be, is the only object on earth on which he bestows his supreme regard. Amen? We're talking about the Church of God now. And just to put things into perspective, and not just to put things into perspective, for us to look at it through the lens of the Seventh-day Adventist Church. In other words, to put it into Seventh-day Adventist perspective. If, in fact, the work of education and redemption are one, and if education is the harmonious development of the mental, the physical, and the spiritual powers, then we need to have a broader perspective as to the constitution of the church. What constitutes the church? Is the church just a number of congregations to cater to the 25 million Seventh-day Adventists around the world? Is that the sum total of the church? So I'm going to share with you the perspective of the Seventh-day Adventist Church. Yes, it is a fact that we have local congregations dispersed across the 13 divisions of the General Conference. And these churches, these congregations, provide a spiritual experience for worshipers, not just Seventh-day Adventists, but for the thousands and thousands of visitors who visit our churches on a weekly basis. Our health message, and I was pleasantly surprised to hear the minister this morning talking about our health message. Our health message, right hand of our message. Yeah? Remember now, we're saying that true education is a harmonious development of the spiritual, yes, through the church. But then we have the physical through our health facilities. And earlier we had a presentation coming from Andrew's Hospital. And then there is the educational institutions. These, I submit to you, are integral parts of the Seventh-day Adventist Church. It is not just about the local church. The local church, the congregations, their mandate is to take the gospel to all the world. So they operate within geographic bounds, yes? And then because the work of education and redemption are one, our education institutions are also integrally engaged and involved in the propagation of the gospel. And of course, as I mentioned earlier, our health message is the right hand of the message. So taken together, our educational institutions, our worship centers, our health institutions, they constitute the Seventh-day Adventist Church. Are we together? Let me back up a little. You will recall that one of the quotations that I shared said that enfeebled and defective as the church may be, it is the only object on earth on which Christ places his supreme regard. So let us build out that thought. If the church consists of the spiritual centers, it consists of our educational institutions, and it consists of our health organizations, then the educational institution, the health institution, constitute the only object on earth on which Christ places his supreme regard. Are we together? It is not just our spiritual congregations. It is our education institution, our hospitals. And so when we are talking about investing in the legacy of our church, we have to invest in our educational institutions and in our health institutions. And I will drill down some more. On your screen, should be coming up shortly, is just a kind of structure of how the Seventh-day Adventist Church works, how it operates. So notwithstanding the three discrete areas that we mentioned, the worship centers, the educational institutions, the health institutions, those three discrete groupings operate as one. And just to share, because a lot of people are not even aware, that our high schools, which are conference-run educational institutions, the chairman of the conference, the local conference, becomes the chairman, the president of the conference becomes the chairman of the school board. And the other officers of the conference are members of that school board as well, because we do not distinguish between our educational institution and the church. The same thing is true. So the president of Jamaica Union, Pastor Everett Brown, he serves as chairman of Northern Caribbean University. It's one church. Are we together? Let me expand it a little more. The same Pastor Brown serves as chairman of Andrews Memorial Hospital. So although we're running three discrete tracks, they all come together to make up the church. And so when we talk about investing in the legacy of our church, we have to talk about our educational institutions and our health centers, our health institutions. But I was asked to focus primarily on education today, so let me do that. Our support for these institutions are vital. It is for good reason, that one of the baptismal vows that we make when we are when we put up our hands to be admitted into the Seventh-day Adventist Church as a member, is that we will support the church with our influence and our finances. Can I tell you that that covers our educational institutions and our health institutions as well? We're talking about the legacy of the church, and our support is vital. But let me talk a little about the importance of supporting our schools. To support our schools is to support God's church, the same church who is the object of his supreme regard. An investment in our schools is an investment in God's church. Our schools, let me just break it down. Let me just give you the backstory. Our schools train and supply workers for the other institutions of our church. Are we together? Talk to me now. I'm saying that our schools supply workers for all the institutions, the educational institution, as well as the hospitals, as well as the church. So, for example, we have sitting in our congregation, Pastor Carl Cunningham, the newly minted Vice President of East Jamaica Conference. He is a product of the educational system of our church. In other words, our education system is turning out the leadership of our church. Are we together? So when we invest in our educational institutions, we are making direct investments in our church. Dr. Merrick Walker, the president, is a product of Seventh-day Adventist education. The president of the union is a product of Seventh-day Adventist education. The president of the division, the Inter-America division, is a product of Seventh-day Adventist Christian education. The president of the General Conference is a product of Seventh-day Adventist Christian education. Are we together? I'm saying, well, we're talking about, we didn't come to that, You're running ahead of me. I'm saying that our educational institution serves the church and its institutions. So when we invest in our educational institutions, we are investing in our church, right? Yes, Pastor Cunningham. Not only does our church benefit from our investment in Christian education, but our governments and the wider society. There are so many corporate leaders who are beneficiary of Seventh-day Adventist Christian education. Yes? And I could go on and on. But let me just enumerate some of the gospel workers who benefit from the Christian education, our pastors and our Bible workers. So, Pastor, our new pastor, Pastor Oliphant, he benefited from Seventh-day Adventist Christian education. Yes? All our pastors. In fact, I can't think of somebody being a pastor in the Seventh-day Adventist Church without being a recipient of some measure of Seventh-day Adventist Christian education. It doesn't work that way, right? And our Bible workers, our church administrators at all levels, whether it is the conference level, the union level, division level, the general conference, and our local church as well. our administrators benefit from Seventh-day Adventist Christian education. To invest in our educational institution is an investment in the church. Our teachers are beneficiaries of our Christian education. Our doctors and nurses are beneficiary of Christian education. Our healthcare professionals, our knowledge workers, our skilled workers, they all benefit from Adventist Christian education. To invest in Christian education, to invest in Adventist Christian education is an investment in the church. And of course, Pastor Cunningham will tell you that the ultimate dividends that ensue from this investment is really souls born for the kingdom of Christ. But I want to make it a little more personal now, in terms of how we benefit and why we should invest. I would like to suggest to you that the training of our children is our single most important God-given responsibility. What did I say? I say that the training of our children is our single most important God-given responsibility. We therefore need to invest in our schools, and because we're artists and our treasure, it also means that we will send our children to the schools that we invest in. Are we together? Yeah? We are going to give an account for the little flock. We are going to have to give an account for children. We have to invest in their future. And so we need to create a safe space where our children can be trained. I'm submitting to us that at the intersection, in fact, if you go to the next slide, we have a triangle there. On one side, we have the church. The other side, we have the school, and at the base, we have the home. That area in the middle, which is where this safe space is created for us to prosecute this very important mandate of training our children. If you take the school side out, then what you do is to just open them up. You no longer have a safe space. Are we together? Can you see the imagery? So that area within that triangle, that's the safe space. It is the home, the school, and the church working together, collaborating together. If we are to take seriously our most important God-given responsibility of training our children, then we need to make sure that they are within that safe space. Are we together? Am I making sense? We have to therefore invest in our church. We have to invest in our schools. We have to invest in our educational facilities. Now, the truth is that education is expensive. Somebody said that ignorance is more expensive. But education is expensive. And And education is a major investment for everybody. In fact, the first debt that young people incur, and some of them carry them far into the future, is student debt. Education is expensive, and it is a major investment. So let me have a quick conversation about how this very expensive education is typically funded. Because our educational facilities, or high schools, or colleges, or universities, and even at the local church, where you have basic school, those are funded by the church as well. They get subventions. So there are line items in the conference budget for Kingsway High School. There are line items in the union budget for NCU. They do provide subvention, some amount of finance. So that is one where some of the money comes from. Money comes from fees. And some people, because they think or believe that fees are high, and they are high. The truth is that student fees alone couldn't run these institutions. As high as those fees appear to be, fees alone couldn't run it. So you need a subvention from the church. And then there are some institutions who in order to try and make some extra money, get involved in some commercial activities. Sometimes it works, sometimes it don't work. Sometimes it make a profit, sometimes it make a loss. But it's a recognition that they need to be adequately resourced, and they're trying to resource it in a way that will work for the kids. And then there are different foundations and endowments. There are past students association. The institutions also benefit from gifts. The one that we do not do so much here in Jamaica, and which I am recommending to us that it become part of our planned giving, is bequeathing a part of our estate. So when we do our estate planning, we remember the church and the institutions of the church, because we are investing in the legacy of the church. Why do we want to invest in the legacy of the church? Because that's where Jesus put all of his investments. The church, enfeebled and defective as it might be, it remains the only object on earth on which he places his supreme regard. So Jesus invests heaven and earth into the church. We need to take our cue from him. Are we together? And so we talk about planned giving. We cannot afford to just arbitrarily tip the Lord. You don't put in your hand in your pocket and you kind of feel out, and then you peep and see what's coming out. If we are going to invest in the legacy of the church, we have to be more disciplined than that. We have to be more intentional and purposeful than that. We have to be more deliberate than that. And so we talk about planned giving. So I'm going to talk about planned giving for another 3 minutes or so, and then I think my time might have expired already anyway. The recommendation is that in our own personal budgets and our family budget, we include a line item for the church. We include a line item for our educational support. A line item. So we don't want for you to put it in the miscellaneous line. We want education to have its own category. Another thing that we could do is that we could create scholarships. We could create scholarships in our own names. We could create scholarships in our family name. And scholarship don't have to mean millions of dollars, you know. Because guess what happened? Ask any young person who getting scholarship to help them through. They will tell you that they get all 10 scholarship, and the 10 scholarship might not even pay the fees. So this notion that scholarship means whole heap of big money. What a scholarship means is a commitment to plan giving. So that every semester, every year, you would contribute so much. Turn it into a scholarship. Are we together? We can do the same thing for our companies. Small business is not only big company can give small scholarship. Small business can give scholarship too. Our young people need help, and the educational institution needs the funds. We can sponsor a child. I mean, just look around. You see children in church, right? And you see how they dress. And you know that they could benefit from some sponsorship. Are we together? We don't have to make no big announcement. We can quietly sponsor a child. Are we together? And of course, we can volunteer in our own institutions. And the last thing, I think, this might be the last bullet point, as I mentioned earlier, we need to rethink how we do our estate planning. We need, I think it was Pastor Cunningham this morning who said that even when he's dead and gone, he has made provision to continue to support the church. We bequeath our sections of our estate to the church. God has been very, very good to us. God has been extremely good to us. And I challenge us to invest in the legacy of the church. Jesus made this super investment at Calvary. We have not been asked to do that, but we have been asked to give liberally and generously and intentionally of our means. I thank you very much.
Brethren, we have not said before, but maybe this is an opportune time to say it as if there are any questions from our congregation, please, this is the time to ask. We would have Brother Jones is still here. Ella Little is still here, so if you have any questions, and I'm sure, yes, and I'm sure we have someone from the Samaritan Inn, of course. So if you have questions, this is an opportune time. But we have one more presentation. This will be coming from Sister Mary Smith. Sister Mary Smith, this will be done via Zoom. Oh, it will actually be done on screen here. So let us have this presentation.
Happy Sabbath, everyone. This presentation takes a look at the founding and funding of some elements of our church specific to the General Conference, Jamaica, and Andrews. Looking at this, I found that it underscores the conviction needed, the personal and financial sacrifice made by those advancing the work of the S.D.A. Church. That's us. And we continue that journey by investing in the legacy of the S.D.A. Church today. In reference, I cite the following: with thanks to the Church Heritage Manual of the S.D.A. General Conference's Youth Department, the Advent Pioneers Biographical Sketches, Jamaica, an article by Pastor Bertram Melbourne, and the history article on the Andrews Memorial website. And so we now look at the concept of co-laborers. So founding and funding captures the nexus between the two, such that founding and the continuity and sustainability of institutions in any sphere is dependent on funding that is capital, both financial and human capital, and the use of these assets of the church. God, in his infinite wisdom, designed his plan of redemption such that mankind has a role to play in his own salvation and that of others. This collaboration between God and man is well demonstrated, I believe, and it has been effected through the growth of the S.D.A. Church because of how God has enabled us to meet the financial needs for evangelism, the needs for the other arms of the church, and to ensure the support of our ministers. What a blessing. We are God's stewards, entrusted by him with time, opportunities, abilities, possessions, and the blessings of the earth and its resources for employment for his glory. And we remain accountable to him for their proper use. The distinguishing mark of the S.D.A. Church, and we know that there are a number of them, but we know that there is one that is very special to many of us. And the signal one, I believe, is the three angels message captured in Revelation 14, 1 to 12. And we know these messages very well. And these messages propel us to participate and to co-labor because we want the three angels message to go around the world loudly. We want our friends and relatives, men and women living now in the time of the remnant church, to hear about these messages. It propels us and it helps us to be in the mind to continue to fund the work of the church. I'd just like to look very briefly on some of the founders and funders of our church. Now, we know our church was born between 1844 and 1852. And we know, too, that many of the investors in this church were very young persons. We have John Nevin Andrews. He was only 19 years when he began his pastoral work. He's credited with the development of many of the doctrines of the church. He's a third president of GC. He suffered great family losses, but he never wavered in his zeal. Another youth is Uriah Smith. At the age of 19, he became involved. He became the editor of the Review, now Adventist Review. At age 23, he began to be a minister, and we know of his commentaries on the prophetic books of Daniel and the Revelation. And this is one of his biggest legacies. And then there's Joseph Yates, who accepted the Second Advent teaching of William Miller, and he invested all his money in the Advent movement. He did not lose faith with the 1844 disappointment. He, like others, kept searching. And as his legacy, there's this track, the Seventh-day Sabbath, a perpetual sign, coming down through the ages. It helped to convert persons, and it also helped in the conversion of James and Ellen White. And then there's John Byington. He helped to build the first church, which was built for the purpose of worship in 1853. Between the age, he was at that time age 60 to 65, I think, considered elderly, and yet he sold what he had and he went to the country parts of America. He bought a farm and he traveled extensively to minister to scattered believers. Now, this is every kind of capital you can think of. This man gave. At the age of 65, he became the first president of the newly formed Seventh-day Adventist Church. And the names of those you see on screen are the ones we are familiar with. William Miller, Rachel Oakes, that devout Sabbath keeper who influenced many. Hiram Edson, the founder and funder, who received the vision about the heavenly sanctuary. We have James White, the second president, husband of Ellen. And we know that this man was an organizational guru. He helped to frame the doctrines, the operation and governance framework, and he managed almost every institution of the church: corporate, publishing, health, and education. Awesome, awesome, awesome contribution to the legacy of this church. And we know of Sister White, of course. There's so much. She is one of the most prolific Christian writers, and her ministry and spiritual gift of prophecy